Welcome to One Interview, One World. This is Lainey Kay, and this is a show about interviewing people from all walks of life because everyone has a story to share and we can all learn from each other. I hope you enjoy listening. Today I'm with Lupe Silva, who is a certified wellness coach and the author of If Not Now, When? Your Path to Wellness. Lupe transformed her life from being overweight, taking prescription drugs for diagnosed illnesses, and not being happy with her work or her life. She will share how she changed her life and how you can too. So thank you so much, Lupe, for being with me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Oh, wonderful. Lupe, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself growing up and what life was like before we go into how this all evolved?
Okay. I was pretty much obese all of my childhood since I could remember. And it was hard. You know, people make fun of you, especially kids. And I have three sisters. I'm the third. I do remember specifically not being able to wear my sister's clothes, hand me downs, my two upper sisters. And I always felt bummed about that. And just a feeling almost like I wasn't able to do some of the sports and things of that nature because of my weight. I was very, very conscious about
Yeah, that would be tough. Did
it.
did you feel like you were treated differently growing up because you were overweight?
I did, in the sense that children and some adults can be cruel, and the making fun of was always a challenge and created a big self-image problem, as I'm sure that does with other kids. So, and that kind of ventured into my adult life as well. And that's when I thought, all right, it's time. It's definitely time to address this.
When was it? Was it after children? When you were, how old were you when you had the want to change?
Um, I'd say that it started probably when I fell in love the first time, and of course I wasn't corresponding. I thought definitely has to be the weight, but I really started becoming more aware of this problem run in my late teens, and I got married young at 19 and worked hard to slim down for that, but it almost seemed like that rubber band effect of today's continued in today's world of gaining losing, that vicious cycle. And was working in the corporate world in HR specifically. And I actually have over 20 years in HR, and the ups and downs and the stress of raising a family and working a salaried position in the corporate world. Boy, that just took my weight and continued and continued. And I became very depressed. And actually, that was one of the five meds that I was on, Prozac, for many years. And it just seemed like there wasn't an end to any of this. So through lots of prayer, and I really think hitting rock bottom, and it was affecting my marriage as well. And I'm sure that crossed over into my parenting too, not feeling well about myself. And answer to prayer is what I feel really helped put me in the right direction of questioning medication and perhaps taking a different alternative. And lo and behold, the mentors that were put in my path was just incredible. The first one being the CEO of the company that I worked for, his office right next to mine. It's hard to believe that he became my mentor. It was really neat to see that he was always healthy and happy. And I thought, isn't that something we all want, to be healthy and happy? And so I started asking more questions and seeing his habits and things of that nature. And he was very, very helpful in my journey, and very supportive in the things that I started to do in the natural way, and including his supporting some of the programs that I started to incorporate in the office as well for the employees. So it was a really, really good situation, but it did take a while because, I don't think we become ill overnight. And so the natural path doesn't heal overnight either. But with perseverance and dedication and loving myself more, I really felt was key in the big transformation.
What were some of the programs that you implemented to help you change yourself?
Well, I think the most important is beginning in the mindset. And if you actually think of our temples, we start at the top with our mind, what we eat, what we absorb, what we eliminate, our sleeping, our movement. I say movement because I don't care for the word exercise, and all the surrounding things that we love. And I think that was really key in recognizing that I can't just fix what I eat or what I think. Um, I've got to take a look at other things in my environment. And when you look at it from a holistic standpoint and look at your lifestyle, which I believe is the key to everything, that's when things started to get better. And I started seeing results. I started drinking more water instead of 5 cups of coffee, which created the insomnia, then would require a prescription to help me sleep. And it was just a vicious cycle. I started eating greens. I started substituting some of the things that I thought. Let me just give you an example of what I used to do in the past. I had a very busy office job in HR, and I honestly, I really didn't even have time to have lunch. So I would always, on a usual basis, have a Snickers and a Diet Pepsi. Wow. Was my average lunch. And it was at my desk, never even thought to go outside and get some fresh air. And I kept gaining weight. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, the Pepsi doesn't have calories. And I mean, the Snickers probably has 200 or 300 calories. And what's going on? So it definitely, the food that I was eating did not have the nutritional value that I needed to function and to be healthy. So I started adding more greens, substituting, some of the bad for some of the bad for some better choices. I started reducing my dairy intake and instead found alternatives like unsweetened almond milk, unsweetened coconut milk, things like that. And I actually started finding things that I enjoyed as far as movement is concerned, because I really didn't care for exercise. That was key, to find things that I enjoyed. And it was beginning, I could see the results little by little.
Yeah, that's beautiful. When you say you incorporated those things, how long did it take you, do you feel, till you were able to get off the medicine, the prescriptions?
Well, as I initially said, it's not a quick fix.
Right.
I'm going to say that it took me about a year to wean off literally from all of them. And I think that's a good time frame, because I think it's wise not to just stop taking things. I feel like, it's been so long now. It's been like 11 years. And my doctor was wonderful in working with me and supporting me. And I actually just saw her a couple of weeks ago for my annual physical. I get to see her once a year, and it's really neat to go back and look at my past records, which is always a conversation piece for both of us. To see that even though I'm celebrating more birthdays, medically and physically, I feel a lot better.
Right. What medicines were you on? I know you said Prozac.
Yeah, Prozac for depression. I was on 2 hormone replacement pills. I was on a sleeping pill. I was on an anti-inflammatory because I have arthritis in my knees. I was always in pain from my knees, my legs, and I was pre-diabetic for sure. I honestly can't remember the 5th one, and a lot of over-the-counter products.
Wow. Like Tylenol or pain pills?
Tylenol, Advils, because it just seemed like I was always aching. I was always aching, all the inflammation. And I just honestly didn't know that there was alternatives, much healthier alternatives. Right. But it really opened up an entire new world for me. And I'm glad that now I'm sharing that with everyone else.
Yes. And I know you became a certified wellness coach. So tell us about that.
Well, I really love the word wellness because I feel that it encompasses our entire lifestyle, meaning the food, our finances, our exercise, our home environment, our relationships, and that's really, as I said earlier, what we want to address, not just one thing, because not just one thing alone makes us happy and healthy. And so I felt that going for something general like that instead of just a nutritionist would be better fit for what was happening to myself. And I felt that that was going to be something better for my own future to reach out to more versus just a nutritionist.
And tell us what type of supplements or alternative options you work with.
Well, there's so many different things food wise. Our food is so divided in today's world that we almost have to supplement because to have the nutrition, as an example, from a bunch of spinach compared to a bunch of spinach from 10 or 15, 20 years ago, we'd have to have two or three of them, even if they're organic. And it has to do because of the soil. The soil just doesn't have the minerals that it did in the past. And so I really feel that even though I'm not a perfect eater, I feel that supplementing is important to get the important vitamins and minerals that we need to function, and especially in this high stress environment that we're living
in. I know you said incorporating greens and things like that, but what would you say? Are you saying best to not do dairy? And is it a more keto diet or?
Oh, I don't even want to get into the keto, get into the keto environment other than keto's not for everybody. I've seen in the wellness shop where I work many, many ill people because they really didn't do it right. And I think of the word diet and I cringe with it because that's what I was doing basically all my life before I made this huge transformation. I was basically dieting. And if you take the word diet, you take the T away from it, it basically dies down in 2 or 3 weeks because it's very hard to maintain that stimulation, that motivation to continue. And your body knows when it's on a diet. And the minute the diet ends, if you will, your body knows it was basically in starvation mode. And so you end up overeating, and the weight that you did lose, if you did, which most people do initially, you end up gaining it plus some more because there was no habits that were changed. And that's key because that's what you're building in a program. You're building new habits, whereas a diet, you're just starving yourself. And getting back to the keto diet, I've seen so many people that had weak gallbladders that didn't even know it, and they just weren't able to process all that fat. So they ended up getting some pretty severe complications. So I definitely don't recommend that route. I think that sticking to something like the Mediterranean or the paleo programs are a lot healthier for you in the long run, where they concentrate more on lots of vegetables and good protein and good fats, and a little bit of carbs of breads, because breads are delicious, and I don't believe we should ever give up something that we love, but just lowering the portions. And I think that that's an important way to keep your body full and feeling well when you have a little bit of everything. If you are told that you can never have coffee again and you're a coffee lover, or you're a bread lover, and you can never have, you're going to feel deprived, and you're going to feel, what did I do that to deserve this kind of thing? And I don't like to teach under that approach. I feel that you shouldn't have to give up what you love. For example, I'm a coffee lover, and whatever it is that you love, you just try to find a healthier alternative, such as organic coffee beans, grinding it right before you're drinking, before you make your coffee. And if you choose to have creamers, there's creamers that are a lot healthier without artificial sugars and fillers that can still make your coffee taste good and still be healthy. You can even put a little teaspoon of coconut oil. That's great food for your brain, and some cinnamon to help level your blood sugar. So there's different ways to make things healthier. I do remember a student say, "Oh, I love ice cream. Does that mean I can still have ice cream all the time?" Of course, the quantity, we have to always look at the quantity. I used to have 5 cups of coffee, and in today's world, I have 1 or 2 cups, and they're not huge mugs either, because in today's supersized world, all the coffee, or seems that most of the mugs and coffee cups are just so much bigger. And
That's
so
true.
you feel the need to have to fill them up higher to fill them up, so that you have to look at all those kinds of things to still enjoy the things that you love. As
Mhm.
far as the ice cream, there's wonderful coconut milk ice cream, and there's selections out there of things that have real organic cane sugar and not artificial stuff. So you can still enjoy a little scoop here and there without breaking the bank.
Right. And then tell me about not doing dairy. Why do you feel kind of steering away from that?
Well, dairy's a pretty controversial subject because we were raised with all those commercials that said that milk is good for everyone. And maybe that was the truth back in the day when our grandparents were growing up. And I was born in Mexico, and I remember once a year, Dad would take the whole family, and my grandparents had a farm and a lot of cows, and they would always offer us this warm milk that I used to think, oh, not warm milk. Um, but it's very different in that the cows were grazing out in the open the way they should, and they weren't restricted emotionally. They weren't restricted either. And so they produced good milk and good beef. In today's world, where a lot of the cows are given so many hormones to make them grow and grow fast, all of that is being transferred to us in whatever it is that they produce. So in this case, milk and beef, and so we consume that, and then we end up that way with all those hormones and things of that nature. So with all of that has happened, my preference is really to stay away from it. And I don't like to use the word never, so I'll use the word avoid. We should just try to avoid dairy
Hmm.
and find other healthier alternatives.
Hmm. And I know your book really doesn't just go into what we're eating. It covers so many different subjects.
Very excited that last year it was finally published, and it's called "If Not Now, When." Your path to wellness. And it basically talks about everything that we're talking right now about lifestyle, because that is key to transformation and becoming healthier and happier. And it includes in there the mindset, which is chapter 1, which I believe is very, very important. And it's a short read, I've been told. It's an easy read, and it's pretty easy to follow to help anyone start changing their lifestyle and becoming healthier, and including what I like to call the 10th chapter, how spirituality heals. I call it the juiciest. How that also made a huge, huge difference in my life.
Hmm.
I also wanted to mention that I am a co-author in this other book called Your Amazing Itty Bitty Book of Words, and the word that I chose on that is wellness. So again, that's defining body, mind, and spirit, because all of those are important in having a healthy balance.
Do you want to touch on some of the other subjects that you share in the book, like about sleep?
Sure. Actually, sleep is a huge component, especially in today's world where our mind is our mind is continuously going and having a hard time going to sleep. And part of that is so much radiation. And that's something that I get into the book, because it's a subject that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. And I think it's really, really important, because we can't live without our cell phones and tablets and computers and smart TVs and all these electronics that are important for our day-to-day use and business use especially. But what's that radiation doing to us? It really is creating so much noise in our head that sleeping is probably one of the top issues, health issues that people are experiencing in today's world. And I say health because many people don't realize that sleep is when we heal, when we're in deep sleep. And wonderful things occur during the peak sleep hours, which is 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. And that's when we can burn fat. That's when we can heal whatever ailments are going on. And that's when we're rejuvenating new cells. And oftentimes, people that call themselves night owls are still getting maybe their 7 hours of sleep, but it's not within the time frame of our circadian rhythm, which is our internal clock. And that's when a lot of work is going on inside our bodies, and they miss that important time frame. So again, I repeat, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Most of us need more time to sleep than that, but those are the critical hours to help the body heal. And so I give some examples of things to do, like make sure your room is dark enough, make sure the temperature is cool enough. In today's, wintertime, that's not a problem. But using essential oils, which I do quite a bit. My favorite line is Young Living. It's just a great quality essential oil. I use a lot of them for different things. Let's see, start turning off your cell phone and laptop activities, like maybe close to 8 or 9, so that by the time 10 o'clock comes, you've not been bombarded with all of that, and you can get into sleep, into deep sleep.
Mm-hmm. What is the essential oil that you use in the evening?
One of my favorites is lavender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can. What I've done is I put it in a sprayer bottle, and I can spray my pillow, and I also diffuse a lot of oils. I have a diffuser in every room of my house, so I diffuse that in my bedroom, and also just putting a little oil in your big toe, which is connected to your sleep, and then just putting oil all along the inside part, because that's the nervous system. So you're actually soothing in some nice lavender oil.
Interesting.
Some of the tricks.
Mm-hmm. And then what about melatonin as a supplement?
Well, in the book, I also mentioned that initially when I was going to holistic nutrition school, we were taught about certain things, but as time changes and more education and research is done on certain things, and sleeping being one of the big ones, melatonin is known as a natural supplement, but we're finding that it's not as good as we think it is, because when we put too much in of what we are supposed to produce ourselves, and we're actually telling the body, oh, you don't have to produce that anymore because you're going to get it as a supplement. So while it's good for a little while, I'd rather look at other supplements like magnesium, a good quality magnesium, because that's a mineral that we don't find as much in our food. And so that might help you relax a little more, and not necessarily have to do it on an everyday basis.
Okay.
Just to get you into that mode. And that's one of the areas that I actually changed my mind. I used to think melatonin was wonderful, and that was the number one thing for sleep. But again, I started learning that certain things aren't what they used to be. So,
what would you say are good supplements to take each day?
Well, everybody's different, but
Right.
I believe a good B complex that has all your family of Bs, B1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 12, are really important for energy. And when it's all together like that in a complex form, that nourishes your nervous system, which I think is really beneficial to all of us. Good old vitamin C that has been around forever, and we shouldn't forget that. I think that should be something on a continuous basis. And then the more natural vitamin C would be rose hips in a more herbal form. And I think D3 is very critical in today's world. It used to be maybe just 1,000 IUs, international units, but now on an average, I think people are very well. It would be something good for them to have on a 1 to 2 or even 5,000 IUs per day, and then take the weekend off. When the amount is that high. In fact, that's what I do on the weekends, especially Sundays. I don't take anything. I just let my body be and let it rest. Back to the basic supplements, I think an omega is a real important. A good fish oil, good omegas are important for the brain, for the heart, and the vision. And then probably one of my favorite anti-inflammatory is turmeric.
Okay.
Great anti-inflammatory, and just make sure it has some form of black pepper for absorption, because that's very critical.
And also, what is your opinion about the source of the supplement? Because like you said, with the vitamin C, rose hips, it's a more natural. So would you recommend, of course, a brand matters, but also I would guess the sourcing, like if it's coming from a whole food source versus different
Absolutely.
options.
I prefer not to get into brands, just,
Right.
I think it would just be safer for everybody to find their own. But, I've noticed that even the farmers markets are now, selling some supplements that I think are locally done. And I think that's really, really important. You're absolutely right. Source is everything. And in today's world where you can just go into, I'm just going to throw that out there, into Amazon and order everything, but it's not always what you think you're getting. So it is important to get it from a good supplier. We also have to remember that with some of these more natural products, they don't have very long shelf lives, because hopefully you're buying something that doesn't have a lot of fillers or preservatives, and therefore if it's really made out of foods and stuff, it's not going to last very long. And so a shelf life of 6 months to a year maximum, and then it's not going to be good. That's a good thing. You don't want something that's still good 5 years later.
Absolutely. Yeah. What is your opinion about apple cider vinegar?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll start by saying that vinegar is mentioned in the Bible. So it's definitely something that is absolutely wonderful. And that is one of the gold nuggets that I have been using for the last 11 years in my transformation. And it really, really is a wonderful tonic for so many things. I mean, there's an entire book on the uses of it and what it's good for. But primarily, it's fabulous for the digestive system and for detoxing and clearing out. I've seen so many people with acne problems start taking it, and their skin gets better. It is acidic, and people say, "Well, aren't we supposed to try to get away from acidic and be more alkaline?" Because alkalinity, disease can't exist in an alkaline environment. But just like lemon, both lemon and vinegar, they're both acidic in nature, but when we ingest them, they become alkaline. So that's why both of those items, lemons and a vinegar, are really, really wonderful. I do have to say we have to be careful with vinegar and not overdo it and not take it straight. We should always dilute it in water, and I prefer to take it after a meal, so that it doesn't end up hitting straight in your stomach without anything. And I highly recommend that for those that have a little bit more sensitive digestive system. And but it really is an incredible tonic. People also ask me about vinegar, if they can just add it to their shakes and other things. I don't care to do that because of absorption purposes. You can be eating a lot of wonderful things, but if you're not absorbing them correctly, then you're losing out on the benefits of things. And sometimes when you mix certain things, we really don't know what that reaction might be. So And this goes along with other vitamins and supplements. I always recommend to students or customers, don't just mix everything together. And that's really crucial too with prescriptions. If you happen to be on prescriptions from the doctor, don't mix herbs and prescriptions together, because the prescription has chemicals, and that's actually going to nullify the good properties of the herb, and then people are going to say, well, it didn't help anything. So it's best to not mix things around. So even all herbs, let's just say somebody's taken 5 or 6 herbs, we take the whole thing together. I've started recently, I just put them in a little cup in my kitchen, and every time I go by the kitchen, then I'll take 1 or 2, and instead of just taking it all in the big scoop for convenience. Sometimes we do too many things to make it convenient, but our health is worth a lot more than just being convenient and then hurting it instead of helping it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So little by little is better.
So when you're making these changes, it's always good to, especially when you're weaning off medications, to work with your doctor as you did.
Yes, that definitely consult with your doctor, and hopefully your doctor will support what you want to do, and you do it slowly. And obviously getting other holistic counseling from a wellness coach or a functional doctor, which is a doctor that is an MD and also has studied holistic nutrition or the holistic path and incorporated those. I think that's a fabulous type of person to get help from.
Yeah, really good point. What is your opinion about getting out in nature, or, exposing your body to sunlight?
Oh my gosh, that's so huge, and that is definitely part of the holistic path of getting sun. And even though in the winter we may feel like we don't have enough sun, but we really need to try to get as at least 20 minutes, if possible, out there. And I love grounding, which is covered in my book. Grounding is so important, to just, take off your shoes and walk the grass and walk anything that is alive. The beach is the first thing that comes to mind, because the beach, you're getting double grounded. You've got water there that you're seeing, and the sand that's alive. And so that's why we feel so good when we go to the beach. And of course, I shouldn't say none of us, but many of us don't have a beach around the corner that we can go to. But if you've got a little bit of grass in your, backyard or front yard, or a park nearby, definitely kick off your shoes and get grounded, and have your body touch the grass, the soil. It just feels so good. And, I mentioned that things that are alive, well, water is also alive. So when we take a shower, that's why we feel so good. And so many people get these wonderful visions and ideas while they're showering. And that's because the water is alive and you're being grounded as you take a shower or a bath. So absolutely, that's a huge part of a holistic lifestyle.
And you touched on water, so why don't you give us some information about that? I know it's really important.
Yes, it's really interesting. In the wellness shop that I'm at, I try to bring that up and ask people, "Are you drinking enough water?" And most will say, "Oh, absolutely, I am," or "Yes, I am." And I really don't think that's the case. And so I want to review what is appropriate. Many people think that it's 8 glasses a day for everybody, but if you think about it, 8 glasses for somebody who's maybe 300 pounds or a 3-year-old, that just wouldn't make sense. So a more appropriate key would be to take your weight, cut in half, and whatever that half is in ounces, or that's how many ounces you should be drinking. So if somebody weighs 150 pounds, half of that is 75. That body would do really well with approximately 75 ounces of water per day. Now, I try to avoid plastic as much as I can. I feel that plastic, one, is not good for us because, especially when it gets hot and things of that nature, all that BPA, all those chemicals going into, what we're buying for as filtered water isn't filtered anymore. especially in the summertime. So I'd much prefer to use glass. And then on top, what it's creating to our environment. If you think all these racks and racks and never ending racks of water bottles, it's just crazy. And are we really consuming more water just because of all this kind of stuff? It seems like we're using so much more plastic, but yet we're not a healthier nation, and neither is our environment. So I'm really big into water because our bodies are 70% water. So I really feel that that's one of the best investments that somebody can do is invest in a good water system for their home so that you can fill all your glass bottles that you need to, or your stainless steel if you have to travel, and not be wasting so much plastic, and yet still enjoying some good quality water.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you about, throughout the day, do you have a suggestion of how to eat or how to plan your meals? Do you recommend eating like smaller meals throughout the day, or just do what you feel comfortable with?
Well, I think you just hit it on the nail. You need to do what you feel more comfortable with and what your own body is calling for. I think we need to pay more attention to what our needs are, and not just try to have one thing fit everyone else, because we're all so uniquely made. And as an example, my husband, God bless him. He can do really well with one huge meal a day, and I'm totally opposite. I'd rather have, 4 or 5 smaller meals, or three good sized meals, and then my couple snacks. But every person's different, and you've got to find what works for you. And if snacks during the day works for you, then that's great, as long as you plan and have a good variety of assortment of good things to snack on. But if you find that you're just randomly eating also, and you're not getting anywhere weight wise, health wise, then maybe you're better off. One of the things that I feel is really, really important at the beginning is journaling your food. That was a huge, huge awareness for me to realize, wow, I'm consuming so little food, and yet why am I gaining weight? And so it's a good time to evaluate and start exchanging some of those foods so that you can have more volume if you're a volume eater, but with higher nutrient contents. But journaling, I think, is key to discovering and writing down after certain meals. How did I feel? Did I feel bloated? Did I feel with a lot of energy? Or 20 minutes after my meal, I'm ready for a nap? Those are the different kinds of things that you can discover when you journal for at least 2 to 3 weeks, so that you can see what is the best program for you in terms of 1 or 2 or 3 meals a day versus, or just kind of snacking throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important because when I eat certain things, I do know that I'm really tired now.
It makes sense. And I also want to bring up fasting. Fasting, I think, is a really wonderful thing that requires a lot of discipline, but you can really help heal your body. There's a lot of good stuff on intermittent fasting, which is not necessarily going for 2 or 3 days without solids, what I call not chewing. But if that's something you can't do, then intermittent fasting might be something better, where you choose to eat for 8 hours and then fast for 12 or whatever. That's something to consider. But that comes from many, many centuries ago, that people didn't readily have food to eat, but yet they were able to maintain their health. So that is definitely a good consideration to look at, to help heal the body and shed some weight.
Mm-hmm. I know you do a program at IVs in Tustin, California. So you should share about that and then your plans for the future.
Okay. Well, I created a program called the WOW program, Working on Wellness. And it's basically a group program that meets every Saturday for approximately 3 months. And what the program does, it teaches about lifestyle habits that will help improve your health and then lose some weight. Our focus is not the weight loss part. Our main thing that we focus on is improving the health of the body. And when the health is improved, it actually releases the weight. And when you look at it at that concept that way, it's a lot more successful than just going into dieting, which is what we talked about earlier, which really is just a temporary solution. I believe we've been teeter-tottering way too long. And so it's time to find that good, happy, healthy medium in our life. And by looking at our overall wellness and lifestyle, we can achieve that. And the program will do that. I am working on getting the WOW program digitalized. So those that can't attend the program, they can still do it online. So that'll be coming soon. I did want to mention one more thing. On the dieting aspect, I do put out a word of caution that when we're constantly dieting, anything over 10 pounds, we're better off just staying where we're at, because every time we lose 10 pounds and then gain them back, and the rubber band effect, you're actually hurting your major organs by doing that. You're just better off just staying where you're at and not going anywhere if that's going to be the case. So that's why I really believe that looking at things from an overall long-term perspective and changing our lifestyle, it's going to be something more sustainable long term.
Absolutely. That's what I love about your book, because you really go over so many different options and the way we look and think and feel. And I agree 100%, starting with the first chapter, because it is a mindset.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the WOW program has become very popular because the group component is really, really important, especially after COVID and lockdowns and not getting close and not hugging and all that kind of stuff. We're humans. We're meant to be with others. And so being deprived of that is difficult. For some, they thrived into those conditions of working at home. But for others, it wasn't. It put people into so much depression. It's very, very sad. So these group programs really, really, that community, that energy that's brought together by everybody is very, very helpful to the success of everyone. So love the program.
Really good point. If people want to look up more information about you, where can they find it?
You can find me at my website, wellnesspath.us. Again, wellnesspath.us. Or you can stop by at Ivy's Bridge to Better Health in Old Town Tustin, California.
Where can people find the book?
Primarily, you can go on Amazon and find it there by its title. If not now, when? Your Path to Wellness. Or you can go to my website at wellnesspath.us, and there will be a link there for the book.
Wonderful.
Either way, I hope you find to getting it and getting started on your wellness path.
Perfect. And I also like to ask people at the end of the interview, what do you feel humanity needs to work on to make our world a better place?
I hope this doesn't sound selfish, but if we begin with ourselves by taking care of ourselves better, we'll certainly feel better, and we'll have the right mindset and that love to help others.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good.
It's hard to help someone else when you're in a dark space. And so I really believe that personally has happened to me. I feel like I've been able to do more pay it forward projects and just do better things for others once I started taking better care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Lupe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.